In every good story, the protagonist needs to face at least some sort of a challenge on their way to achieving their goals. Unless you're watching a villain of the week sort of show where these matter a lot less, villains have their own challenges besides trying to defeat an overpowered main cast. We all know watching this that the villain isn't going to win in the end, but there are a few ways their impact can last, and I'll be giving an example for 3 of them. Captain Conrad of the Inquisition. I'll be using this villain from Radiant to explain the first, and honestly my least favorite yet necessary type of villain. Conrad isn't the character you're going to go to look for backstory. More or less, he's just a racist, power-hungry asshole. Conrad himself isn't going to leave a lasting impression on most people watching, but his value as a villain is to finally allow Seth to show how much he's grown and what morals he's willing to fight to protect. Conrad and Seth are polar opposites. He is there to directly oppose everything Seth stands for, and his quick defeat reinforces the belief that Seth and Yaga's training was the right decision. The second type of villain seems to be somewhat rare. It was honestly hard to find a character that fit this mold and I actually liked and wasn't from a show I'm already talking about. Originally, I was planning on using Veto from Black Clover as my example, but instead, let's use him as a bad example later on. The second type of impactful villain is a force so strong they leave tangible proof of their strength. In a shorter sense, they fuck something up permanently that shows how big of a threat they pose. For example, I'll be using the Kishin from Soul Eater. The Kishin was so hungry for power, they started consuming human souls, and because of that sin, they developed into a monster driven by madness. The Kishin's impact on the world of Soul Eater was all the Meisters and weapons they've killed, and the formation of a stronger DWMA to train new students to forever keep him sealed, or it would mean the entire world would be plunged back into madness. The pure strength and terror of the Kishin remains in the world even after Lord Death seals him away. In a sense, that fear makes it so until he's eventually killed, the Kishin never really lost. For another less pure strength focused hero, we can just look to Stain from My Hero Academia. Not only did he take Ingenium out of the hero business, his ideology was powerful and convincing enough to sour the mood the public had towards heroes. As for Veto from Black Clover, he falls in the same category, but his aftermath doesn't last as long as it should have. In his fight with the Black Bulls, Veto curses Asta's arms so he can't use his swords. Seeing as Asta's the protagonist, there's no way they would let that be permanent, but the issue happens with a couple of side characters. Kahano and Kyoto from the Underwater Temple were also injured in the fight. Veto cut off Kyoto's legs so he could never dance again, and he destroyed the vocal cords of Kahano, and her singing magic would be impossible. Unlike in Fairy Tail, the wizards in Black Clover only have their specific magic and can't learn different kinds. Kyoto and Kahano should have been constant reminders to Asta and the others that the Eye of the Midnight Sun were a legitimate threat to the Clover Kingdom. But instead, the Queen of Witches heals their curses and Veto's impact is just thrown out the window. The third type, and my personal favorite kind of villains, are the ones that had enough care put into them to build them into realistic and somewhat relatable characters. Think back to our example of Conrad. His backstory is limited just to him being a racist douche who craves power. Hopefully not too many people can relate to him or want him to win in the end. For this example, I'll be using a character I adore and plan to do a future video on. Master Hades from Fairy Tail is one of the most developed characters in the entire show. Precht was one of the founding members of the Fairy Tail Guild, and after Mavis's passing became the second guild master. Sensing that Mavis still had magic power radiating from her body despite her heart not beating, Precht became obsessed with finding a way to bring her back, and that led him to dark magic and the abyss from which all magic originates. Obtaining stronger and stronger dark and devil magic, Precht was renamed Hades to reflect his new demonic power and started the Dark Guild Grimoire Heart. Twisted by the darkness around him, he gathered other strong wizards and taught them unique forbidden magic to eliminate Fairy Tail. He became power mad, but the important thing is that isn't his sole personality trait like Conrad. There is so much story behind this man that personally I put him as the ultimate Fairy Tail villain. The best way for me to get attached to a villain is if enough thought is put into their story that they feel like they belong. For other examples, you could think of Shigaraki from My Hero Academia and what importance his past plays. For a villain to be memorable and impactful in the story, they need to either be a good baseline to judge the character's abilities by, they need to have a legitimate, tangible, or measurable impact on the world, society, or cast that lasts, Beto, or they need to be given the room to shine as their own character you can relate to, connect with, or understand. Aragorn does none of those things, but I still love him. Maybe I should have put have a dope design and a condescending attitude. Thanks for watching. Check your screen for the Why I Love playlist and a video YouTube seems to think you'll dork out over. Or check the description for anything you need. Well, peace weebs.